morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much for being here. Let's just start with you telling us a bit about yourself. I know you're 25, you were born in Colombia. Where do you study and also why did you decide to study anthropology?
Yeah, I studied at the University of Hamburg in Germany. I've been living in Germany for the past 5 years. And I decided to study anthropology because it's a very complete science. It's also very polemic, very problematic sometimes, but at the same time offers many tools to think or speak about a transformation in society by understanding culture, like the roots of cultural and human behavior.
How is anthropology significant to contemporary issues, in the world today?
Well, mainly because of the same reason. If we want to address a very complex social and cultural phenomena, just like patriarchy, for instance, we would need to address also the roots of very complex human structures, social and cultural structures. Anthropology is, in that sense, is a tool for the understanding, for a very deep and complex understanding of social cultural structures. So in order to address and maybe speak of transformation of every economic, political, cultural issue, anthropology serves to acquire more information and analysis so that we can face the issue.
Yeah. Talk to us about the connection between patriarchy and gender-based violence.
Good. Patriarchy is a system.
Yeah.
It's an ideology. It's something very, very much complex. We don't have time to describe
Yes.
the whole problem. But patriarchy is directly related to gender violence because patriarchy is a system of male predominance. And male predominance directly implies the oppression of women, the systematical oppression of women and other genders as well. In that sense, patriarchy could be a synonym, a universal synonym for the physical, mental, economic, psychological oppression of women. In that sense, gender-based violence, when we speak of gender-based violence, we're mainly addressing the violence that women and other genders experience from men.
That's right.
Which doesn't mean that other men, it also implies that other men can be violent towards other men, but that's not usually considered to be gender-based violence. The statistics are lower also, the reported statistics.
Yeah.
So patriarchy is gender-based violence is a direct consequence of patriarchal structures.
Why is it important, do you think, to tackle a topic of this nature and unpack it, especially in this climate? I don't know if you have been watching, obviously, the social media and local news reports on what's been happening in South Africa just over the past 2 days. So why is it important to you to shed light on this matter?
Well, I've been planning this event for a long time. These events in South Africa are very recent, and I really want to take the chance to invite everybody out there interested in concern about all the things, the gender-based violence that women in South Africa, but also in Namibia and actually in every part of the world are experiencing. Shedding light on this issue is a very important thing, since the crisis or the extreme events that have been taking place in South Africa are not. I mean, you don't have to have a crisis for these events to happen. These events have been happening the whole time. So it's now very much extreme what's happening in South Africa. And we as the people, we have the chance and we have the power to stop that. As long as we're not together, as long as we don't address this issue, we don't sit down on a table and start considering asking questions and also finding answers, finding the way to channel all of this knowledge into political actions. This is not going to stop. So today's event is much more focused on not only on analysis and speaking, asking questions, but also gather as people who are interested in this, people who have experience speaking and doing things against gender-based violence and patriarchy, in the context of what's happening now in South Africa, get together and carry out actions against it.
Camilo, do you think that the average man understands what patriarchy is, and the sort of automatic dominance it gives them and the privilege that it affords them? Or is it that they know and decide to be oblivious, or is it that they really don't understand what patriarchy is?
Well, first of all, I need to remind that me speaking from a male body is, as you might have addressed indirectly, is something unusual, something that many women regarded as suspicious or as fake. But answering to the question, definitely not. The average man, the average person, even not irregardless of gender, the word patriarchy, the word gender-based violence is usually not in
Part
the
of their
common usage.
vocabulary, yeah.
Exactly. So, especially men, they are not aware of the privilege. We are not aware of our privilege normally. At the same time, we are. At the same time, we are aware of the fact that we have been taught that we are entitled to women's bodies, to women's lives, to women's dignities. We are entitled to strip them off of humanity and consider them to be like properties, things like that. We are aware of that, but not in a very conscious level. So this kind of talks, like today's, this kind of events like today's, is addressed or is thought, is conceived specifically to let men know that this privilege exists, also women, also every gender. Let them know that this privilege exists, that patriarchy creates the privilege, creates the dominance, and that in order to speak of freedom of humanity, we need to speak of the freedom of women.
Yeah.
Just like Thomas Sankara once said, it is not possible to speak about the freedom of a nation, the freedom of Africa, without speaking of the freedom of a black woman. As long as it doesn't take place, we cannot speak of any kind of social transformation.
And just to clarify, it's not strange that you, a male-figured person, would speak about this topic. I think as women, we've overexhausted the topic in many ways. We are tired of speaking. We are tired of saying, stop killing us. We are tired of saying stop raping us. We are tired of saying, protect us. And it's high time that men get involved, in terms of discussing something so important and of this nature. There's a lot been going on in social media, as I mentioned earlier, and one of the things I saw is that every woman knows another woman that has been abused or raped by a man, but no man knows an abuser or rapist. And so I think this is a discussion that men need to take forward, because all the women in us are tired.